We still don't have answers about what happens after death. Many of us have theories, including the idea that life continues after death in the form of reincarnation. This is the belief that the soul is reborn into a new body once the old one expires. The only problem is that our human nature makes us crave proof. To believe in something, we tend to want to not only understand it, but see it for ourselves. Well, the Pollock sisters might be the proof we've been looking for. Their story first appeared in the papers in the 1950s but continues to raise questions today. Here's why theorists are finding these sisters fascinating. This story started with another family. On a Sunday morning in 1957, a day usually reserved for church, a mother was experiencing a breakdown. She had been forced to separate from her children and couldn't stand the idea, so she decided that morning that she would take her own life. She took lethal quantities of aspirin and phenobarbital and got into her car with the intention of colliding somewhere at full speed and dying from the impact. What this mother didn't account for is that very same morning, two little girls were walking to church with their 9-year-old friend named Anthony. As they walked minding their own business, a car veered off the road and drove right into the girls, trapping them between the car and a wall. The impact was said to have tossed them into the air like cricket balls. All three children died from the collision. The two girls were known as Joanna, 11, and Jacqueline, 6. Unfortunately, the mother attempting to take her own life that day survived and the children didn't. She was arrested and transferred to a psychiatric facility. The children's families were left devastated. Joanna and Jacqueline were the only girls to their parents. Time went by, and although John and Florence Pollock, the parents of Joanna and Jacqueline, continued to grieve, they got pregnant again and had a new life to look forward to. In 1958, Florence gave birth to 2 more girls, an unexpected set of identical twins. They named the girls Jillian and Jennifer. The birth itself was strange. The family had no history of twins, and even Florence's doctor had only heard 1 heartbeat when he ran his tests. But that wasn't all. The new set of twins had remarkable similarities to their sisters who had passed. Joanna was born in 1946 and her sister Jacqueline in 1951, but the fact that they had an age difference didn't impact the never-ending coincidences. For instance, Jennifer had 2 birthmarks. One of them was a round dark mark on the left side of her waist that was an identical one to the birthmark Jacqueline had had. The other birthmark was in an even stranger position right on her forehead above her right eye. This was the exact location of a scar Jacqueline had gotten when she had fallen and hit her head on a bucket. This still wasn't dead. The parents remembered Joanna once saying before she died that she'll never be a lady. Once she died, they believed that this was a premonition that she'll never grow up. Some sources say that when the twins were 3 years old, one of them asked if they could have their old toys back, and their mom retrieved her deceased children's toys from the attic. She couldn't believe her eyes when the girls didn't fight over them. Jillian claimed Joanna's toys as her own, and Jennifer claimed Jacqueline's. The girls seemed to impersonate the personality of one of their dead sisters. Joanna, as the older sister, had a motherly instinct and seemed to take care of her little sister. Jillian was the same and showed more maturity over her twin sister. Jennifer also listens to Jillian like she was older. Jillian even had the same interests as Jacqueline, often playing with costumes and acting in plays of her imagination. So could these physical and personality similarities be just coincidences, or are they proof of incarnation? The girl's dad, John, was certain it was reincarnation. He believed that his daughter's murder was a punishment from God because he had questioned and provoked him when he asked and prayed for proof of reincarnation over and over again. His fascination had started as a child after reading a book about it. Despite being Catholic and belonging to a church that refuted reincarnation, he claims to have known that his wife would give birth to twins even when her doctor didn't. The strangest part of the twins' story is the stories they told of memories they had of a past life, with details they couldn't have possibly known. This included knowledge of places they'd never been to. For instance, the family had moved to Whitley Bay when the twins were born, yet somehow when they moved back to Hexham, where the deceased daughter had lived, the twins were able to get around and identify places they'd never seen. They even knew how to find their dead sister's favorite park. The details were scary. John told the story of a time he was walking the twins up the hill towards St. Mary's Church.
One turned to the other. Well, the schools around here, which we used to go to, and the playgrounds round the back. Now, they couldn't possibly have seen any sign of a school or a church even. I mean, they were so small they couldn't even have seen over the wall.
The coincidences kept piling up. The twins could even identify friends and neighbors and had a preference over the same food and clothing their sisters once did. It's like the trauma from the sisters' brutal death accident continues to live on. Even Florence, who at first refused to believe in reincarnation as it went against her Catholic faith, remembers one time finding Jennifer lying on the floor, her head being cradled in Jillian's lap. She overheard Jillian telling her sister, "The blood's coming out of your eyes, that's where the car hit you." The twins were also very afraid of cars. They didn't like crossing the street and always clung to each other when they heard a car engine. The parents remember a particular day when the sisters heard a car engine in an alleyway and screamed, the car, it's coming for us." Despite the long list of evidence that seems to point towards reincarnation, some experts believe that what the twins knew was just based on their parents' influence. In their time of grief, they likely planted memories and convinced themselves that what their daughters knew must mean that they were still connected to the ones that had passed. Ian Stevenson, a professor of psychiatry who included the Pollock girls in his book entitled Children Who Remember Previous Lives, A Question of Reincarnation, reminds us of the idea that the parents may have planted memories in Jillian and Jennifer, either consciously or unconsciously. It's possible that they mention their late daughters in passing, i.e. that was Jacqueline's favorite toy, or we used to take Jacqueline and Joanna to this park. Kids are far more perceptive than they get credit for. However, this still doesn't solve the mysteries of their physical scars and preferences. Jillian and Jennifer's past life memories stopped after the age of 7. As adults, they're still kind of skeptical about the whole concept of reincarnation, but have accepted that they may have embodied their dead sisters' souls. They had moved on with their lives until 1981, where Jillian had visions in which she saw herself playing in a sandpit in Wickham, where the family had lived before she was born. She had never been in person. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.